Hey everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Makeda Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. And in case you are unfamiliar with me, I have a background in exercise and sports science, nutrition science. My bachelor's degree is in exercise science and sports science with a concentration in strength and conditioning, which is all about training athletes and injury prevention. Minor in sports nutrition, which is also about proper performance, and then do graduate work in that field, and have committed my life to studying all the ways that we can take our body to its highest level and everything that's involved in that. And I also am a huge cannabis advocate of cannabis medicine, always studying different ways that it can be used in the body for a variety of health issues. And I just recently got accepted into a Master of Science program at the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics. And so I gave all that background, okay, because I want to talk about this Brittney Griner situation. And I'm on my Instagram page right now, the Body Scientist Instagram page, but I will save this and re-upload this to all my Instagram pages, okay, because I have one, The Body Scientist, where it's more scientific about health science. I have another one, The Renaissance Amazon, where I talk more about social issues. And then I have my travel page, Makeda Valletta Travels, where I talk about traveling. And so this conversation is going to intersect all of those things, okay? So I'll repost them in all those places. Okay, so first of all, let me start off by saying my heart is broken over finding out that Brittney Griner was sentenced to 9 years in prison for having 0.7 grams of cannabis on her, okay? And so I hear a lot of people having this conversation, and they're not really dealing with facts, okay? People are throwing opinions out there, and they haven't done the research. I always like to do thorough research before I form an opinion about something, okay? So let's just deal with the facts, okay? So, first of all, let's talk about the laws in Russia, okay, around cannabis. Because, hold on a minute. I think, okay, just give me a second. So, I need to turn my laptop on. But people keep saying, no, Biden said that she was wrongfully convicted, right? Which is true. And a lot of people were like, no, she wasn't. She knew the laws over there. She shouldn't have done that, da-da-da. But if you actually look at the laws in Russia say 6 grams of cannabis, 6 grams of cannabis gets you 15 days in jail, okay? 15 days in prison and a fine for 6 grams. She had 0.7 grams, okay, and was sentenced to 9 years. So that is not what the law in Russia says. And I'm actually going to read to you, okay, because she was also fined more than, hold on, I'm going to bring a document up on my laptop so I can actually read everything to you, okay? So you can see that the laws don't even say in Russia that a 9-year sentence is even, warranted for having such a small amount of cannabis. So while I wait for my computer to come up, to restart or whatever, so I can bring up this document and read this to you, I'll keep going on. So there's a 99% conviction rate in Russia. So it's really interesting because, you know, I'm an American, and I hear a lot of people, a lot of Americans complain, whether they be homegrown Americans like myself. And when I say that, I mean my family has been on this soil for as far back as I can trace, right? So whether they're homegrown Americans or first, second generation Americans, I do hear a lot of Americans, you know, talk about the U.S. as if it's like this undesirable place to live and they want to go live in another country. And I've always said, darn it, I can't find this article that I texted myself. I've always said that, I'm trying to talk to you and bring it up. I personally, every single country on the planet has pros and cons, right? They all do. But I would rather deal with the cons of America than a lot of other places. Now, it depends on what's a priority to you, what you need in life. But when people complain in the U.S. about the police, right, or about the legal system, it's like the police in the U.S. are a lot more, but not even just lenient, but the police in other countries, okay, can be a lot more harsh, okay? The way that people might talk to the police in the U.S., they would never do that in Nigeria. They would never do that in Jamaica. They would never do that in Russia, okay? I remember when I was 10 years old, and it was Thanksgiving, and when it was my dad's turn to say what he was thankful for, he said, "I'm thankful to be living in a country where they're not going to come to my house and drag me out my house and kill me because I spoke about the government," right? And I remember being 10 thinking like, huh? Like, and that's what he was thankful for. But as I've grown up, and my dad was a journalist when I was growing up, and he was writing about, and so a journalist, an op-ed columnist, he wasn't a reporter. He wrote his opinion, okay? He wrote his opinions on different social issues, world issues, black issues, whatever, in the New York Daily News, the Manchester Guardian of London, Emerge Magazine, the Village Voice, okay? And so he might write things about politics, about the government, whatever. And in some countries, you can't say anything. And Russia's one of those countries, okay? Russia's one of those countries where you can't express your opinion about anything. You can't even try to educate about the medicinal side of cannabis, right? Now, I know that, and this is the thing about traveling too, because I travel a lot. I travel a lot in the U.S., I travel a lot out of the U.S., right? And, you know, a lot of people make fun of, there's so many things, I have this list of things I want to say, but I'm just letting my brain go. A lot of people make fun of the medicinal properties of cannabis like it's a joke, right? And I used to kind of be like that because I've been consuming cannabis since I was like in college. So maybe like 18, 19. Back then it wasn't a whole lot. But all my athlete friends, football players, basketball players, I ran track and I was a dancer. They all consumed it. They all smoked weed, okay? And then going on, you know, I grew up around that with the intellectuals that I grew up around. My dad used to speak at the Million Marijuana March, all of that, right? And so now fast forward, I remember like maybe 10 years ago or something, being in California, and it's like, oh yeah, they're giving out medicinal marijuana cards, and it was like kind of like this joke, like, oh, you can use it for all these things. And I didn't really know, right? I just knew that it helped me as a dancer, right? When I need to get, you know, it just helped me just to be, I noticed when I was in college, like drinking, if I drank too much, I felt like I was more disconnected from my body. But when I smoked weed, I felt more connected, right? And it's just calm. And as an artist, because I'm an artist and I was an athlete and an artist, as a dancer, it helped me connect with my body, to be calm and get very internal. And then as an athlete, it helped me to chill out after a workout. So I feel like with football players, for example, football players, they have all this, you know, banging into each other, all this aggression, all this rah-rah. Like, you need something to calm you down after that. After you're getting all riled up and the whole training is sprinting and running and crashing into things. You need something to chill you out. And sports medicine will drug you up in a second with all kinds of stuff. When people get concussions, that's inflammation of the brain, okay? There are properties in cannabis that are neuroprotective. That means they protect your brain. They protect your neurons, okay? They are highly anti-inflammatory. And I was going to do a video on cannabis and sports applications, but so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I'm just saying, like, and also with NSAIDs, okay? Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which are addictive, and they stop your body from healing, and they cause ulcers, okay? But sports medicine doctors will give that to you all day, when athletes could be massaging cannabis oil into their achy muscles to help them recover faster and bring down inflammation. They could be consuming it for concussions, okay, and brain injuries to help prevent them having further issues. We see that Sha'Carri Richardson last year, when she got in trouble and couldn't compete in the Olympics, but her mother had just died. Now, because you know why? Her smoking weed was not going to make her run faster. It wasn't. Now, the rules are the rules, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just letting people understand why athletes consume cannabis, because all the athletes I know have and do, right? So when you're performing at a high level, you have to be able to calm yourself. Like for me, I know that cannabis definitely helped me with stress and anxiety. So I could say before I knew about all the medicinal applications, before I knew about the applications for pain, and I've done videos on it, on these topics that you can find on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. But before I knew that, I just know that if something happened to me that really stressed me out and I was like really upset, I would smoke weed. And it really would help me. Like, I'm like, after that, I feel so much better. Like, I feel so much more calm, like more able to deal with life. And that's still the case, right? But there's tons of research on applications, cannabis applications with mental health and anxiety and PTSD. I've seen ex-military people who tell their job, like, if I can't consume cannabis, I might flip the fuck out in here because I have a flashback. I get some PTSD. You know what I'm saying? And they get permission. Okay? I have seen, let me show you. So if you have somebody like Sha'Carri, well, that happened, you know, that's the reason why she did. Now, of course, the Olympic rules are what they are, and they do very stringent drug tests, and you have to abide by them. So I understood that when Sha'Carri Richardson got in trouble, like, there was no trying to get the International Olympic Committee to overlook that. I understood that, and that was the risk she took. But I'm just saying, to those of you who don't know, a lot of athletes consume cannabis, okay? And it helps them in a variety of ways. I'm trying to find... Oh, okay. So now, this book right here, this is written by a Harvard medical doctor, and this is called Marijuana, the Forbidden Medicine. You see this? Marijuana, the Forbidden Medicine. All right? Now, the person who wrote this book, Lester Grinspoon, MD, is an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. James B. Bacalar, okay, who is the other person, the other author, is associate editor of the Harvard Mental Health Letter and a lecturer in law in the Department of Psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, okay? And this book, she actually goes into depth about a lot of different health problems, okay? And not just that, but stories of people, like, let's say parents, who might have been very conservative, never knew anything about cannabis, had a kid that had multiple sclerosis and was in pain and couldn't stop shaking, or had a child that was going through chemotherapy, and the anemic drugs that are supposed to make you stop throwing up weren't working, and they're watching their child go to chemo and come back and throwing up for 10 hours, or throwing up nothing because they can't eat. And then someone puts a buzz in their ear that cannabis helps with that, and then they might have not believed it at first, and then the parent might have given their 19-year-old son, a joint to smoke while he's going through chemo, and realized that the effects of the chemotherapy is no longer the same. Now he's not sick afterwards. He's not throwing up. Because the chemotherapy and radiation could be so bad that some people would rather just have the cancer and not even go through that. And then when someone is going through chemotherapy and radiation, they're being prescribed all these extra drugs to deal with the side effects. Cannabis can prevent all of that. And so, but then you have parents who learned about that, but then they're like, well, how am I going to get it? Like, I don't know where to find weed. So then they feel like, excuse me, they feel like they have to take another child of theirs and have them go out and try to find it in the street. And they're like, well, you know, now we have to talk to, you know, people that we don't, shady people, or risk getting arrested trying to find it because they weren't people who knew about it, you know? So this book has a lot of stories like this. Also a story about a medical doctor in Chicago back in the 90s, a male doctor who had HIV/AIDS, and he was losing all this weight because he couldn't eat. And then he started consuming cannabis, and it really helped him be able to gain weight and be able to deal. And he got caught with it and got in all this trouble and then couldn't even afford it, which is the reason why, okay, going back to one of the things I love about the U.S., it's the reason why it's important to be able to grow your own. Because people who are using it medicinally, okay, Do I mean to tell you that you can use cannabis oil for knee pain? The VA wants to do surgery on your knee, on your ACL. Yes, you can use cannabis oil for knee pain for sure. Now, depending on what's wrong with your knee, okay, depending on what is wrong with your knee, you still might need surgery. I don't know. You know, I can always do a consultation with you, and you can tell me more about it. So I don't know exactly what, because like if your ACL, because you wrote ALC, but I'm thinking you mean ACL. If your ACL has actually snapped or something, then you might need to get surgery to repair it, because it's those ligaments are stabilizing your knee joint, right? But I don't know if it's completely snapped or whatever. But yes, you can use cannabis oil for knee pain. And you don't have to ingest it. You can rub it on topically. And I have videos where I talk about that. Like, I don't want to get... So let me go back to this, right? So I'm just saying, I have a lot of videos where I get into depth about the medicinal properties of cannabis, and I have more to come. But it can be expensive if somebody's using it medicinally. Because depending on what's going on with the person, they might need a lot of oil, or they may need to cook with it, which is something that I'm about to get into, because I feel like if you're going to ingest it, sometimes you do need to ingest it when you're taking it medicinally. If you have internal pain, like nerve pain, deep internal nerve pain, somebody who does have multiple sclerosis, somebody who is dealing with serious nausea, somebody who is diabetic, somebody who might be a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, and they're dealing with pain, you know what I'm saying, then you have to get it inside of the body. And a lot of times edibles are like cookies and gummies and all this junk food, brownies, but that stuff is junk. And if you're trying to heal and get healthier, let food be thy medicine, okay? Food is the foundation, okay? And so, and it works together. And I'm going to do videos. I have so many, I've been studying a lot with that I have to talk about. I'm not going to get a lot into that right now, because that's not what this video is about. But I'm just saying, if somebody does need it on that level, like, buying it all the time can be very expensive. And even though medical cannabis may be legal, you, whatchamacallit? Oh, yeah. Even though it may be legal, it's health insurance is not going to cover it. So people have to come out of pocket for a significant amount of money. So that's the reason why, if you look at the U.S., some of the states, like D.C., where I am now, New York, where I'm from, you can grow cannabis plants in your house. Illinois, where I live now, you can if you have a medical card. But there are some states where there's legal cannabis, but you can't grow it you can't grow your own plants. But it's important to be able to grow your own plants if you're using it for medicinal purposes, right? For that reason. Okay. So anyhow, and there's a lot of countries, like for me as a traveler, okay, because let me say this too before I get back to this. Me as a traveler, it's really disturbing to me too what happened with Brittney, because first of all, I believe in natural medicine, right? And I believe in I don't take pharmaceuticals at all. Okay, I don't care if I have a headache. I don't care if something happens. I get surgery and they want to give me antibiotics because they want to prevent an infection. Not taking your antibiotics. I don't care what it is. Okay, actually, to be completely transparent, you know, I got sick with COVID like a couple of weeks ago, and I hadn't got COVID this whole time. Okay. Did not take any jabs, okay? I don't believe in that either. I have videos where I go into depth about that. But I believe in strengthening my immune system naturally. And when all this time, never got it. Got it a couple of weeks ago. I was sick for a couple of days. But it was cannabis tincture that I used, okay? During that time that I felt like, and some other things. I never just use one thing. When you're doing holistic things and you're trying to bring your body back into balance, it's a few things. But during that time, I wasn't smoking cannabis. I was putting tincture into my tongue. First, I put oil in my tea because I had a headache when it started. And so so it's so much, I use it for so many different things that it's like I want to always keep it with me. Like everywhere I go, and I probably shouldn't even, I'm not even going to show this because people are always watching me, but I'm just saying. I like to take it with me everywhere because it can be used for so many things. Like I recently had a client who was in Ethiopia, and she got very sick, and she had some on her, okay? That she had some cannabis oil and she consumed it, and she said it saved her, okay? It saved her from being extremely sick when she was on this trip, okay? So I'm just saying, this video is not about the medicinal properties and science. I can go really into it. I'm just saying, So for me, it's like, I don't, like, when it comes to traveling, you know, people say it's not where you're from, it's where you're at, right? And traveling can be very stressful. I travel a lot. It can be very stressful. And there are times when you might throw some stuff in a bag and you don't realize it's in the bag, or you didn't take something out of the bag. That is very possible. And that is what Brittney Griner said happened. Now, we don't know, but she had a very small amount. And people keep saying, oh, but she knew the laws and she knew the laws. Of course, she was playing basketball there for 6 or 7 years. And she said she had just gotten over COVID and she had COVID fog. Okay, and that's real, where somebody could just be kind of foggy. And she threw all her stuff in a book bag that she had and left. We've all gone someplace and found something in our bag that we didn't need. Well, at least I know it's happened to me. That I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this was in here. That's very possible, okay? When they sentenced Brittney Griner to 9 years for, what was it? Criminal possession. What was it? It was like basically criminal possession and smuggling and criminal possession. So how could it be smuggling or criminal intent? That's what it was, criminal intent, when it's 0.7 grams. That's like nothing, right? And it was oil or something. I don't know if it was oil or just an oil cartridge, but yeah, no, right? So again, I know some of you have just come in. So I just want to talk again about these, the cannabis laws in Russia, because they do not at all say that the punishment that she was given was warranted for what she had. Because the law in Russia is if you have 6 grams, okay, 6 grams of cannabis is considered an administrative offense. Administrative offense punishable by fine or detention of 15 days. 6 grams, and she had 0.7. So how is she getting 9 years? Okay, so, and I don't see anybody in the news talking about this. I don't see anybody talking about this. People are, there's so many ignorant comments of, oh, she knew and she should have known, and if she wasn't an athlete, then nobody would care, or da-da-da. But, and when Biden said she was wrongfully detained, people are like, no, she wasn't. Yes, she was, because look, now, on my YouTube page, I'm going to put this link below. This is from cincyseeds.com. This article is from September 26, 2021. Okay, so it says, okay, I'm going to read this to you. It's illegal to possess, sell, or grow cannabis in Russia. The country has the highest number of people incarcerated for drug offenses. For drug offenses in Europe. Sorry, I'm like trying to look at you guys and read. Okay, so the country has the highest number of people incarcerated for drug offenses in Europe per capita. And most were imprisoned under the notorious Article 228. However, there are hints that the law may change, with the country exploring the option of importing cannabis for medical research. Now, it's funny because I was looking at the news and I saw a man who was like an expert on something that had to do with Russia. And maybe it was like the Russian legal system. And he was saying that they don't even like Brittney Griner had a prescription from a doctor here. Now, I know a lot of people think that's a joke and they don't think it's real, but it is, okay? And athlete or no athlete, there's a lot of things that people can use it for medicinally. But like I said, all the athletes I've known, track, basketball, football, have smoked cannabis. Okay, and I remember when I was like in college or in my early 20s, people used to say to me when they would see me, because I was never trying to hide it. Like I was always unapologetic about it, like Snoop, because my dad is like that. I grew up around that. And my dad is 80 years old. He never gets sick. He has all his faculties. Nothing's wrong with his brain or his friends. And I've been watching him smoke weed my entire life. So it wasn't, you know, I just was like, whatever. I knew better. And so I remember, like, in this idea that it was unhealthy, I wanted to kill that or whatever. But I'm just saying, in Russia, it's not even legal to talk about it. They said, like, you can get in trouble for even talking about it. And again, going back to one of the reasons why I love America and why I will never leave. Okay, I'm not moving to another country. And again, every country has its pros and its cons. Okay, I'm not saying America's perfect. But no country is perfect. Every country has its pros and its cons. But at least in this country, we can speak our mind more than most people. You know what I'm saying? Like, people make jokes about Trump online, they're not going to kill you. Russia, that's a different story. They can't form a coalition about anything. They can't protest about anything. There's a lot of things they can't even talk about, or they'll get in trouble. And cannabis is one of them. But yet it's saying in this article that they're exploring the option of importing cannabis for medical research. Now, Israel has done tons of medical research on cannabis. The U.S., you have PhD scientists at Harvard and MIT and, UCLA, and, doing all, a lot of American universities, high-level ones, researching cannabinoids and the medicinal properties of cannabis. And there's a lot of science on it. And you know what? People have been using it to heal all over the world for thousands of years. This is another book that I have. This is like a kind of an old book, right? Marijuana, marijuana, marijuana. That's what it says. In this book, I'm just going to read to you. It says, in early times, cannabis in the ancient world... sorry. Let me go back. Sorry. I have to go back between talking to you and reading. Okay. So, it says, cannabis in the ancient world. Archaeologists now assure us that hemp has been a familiar agricultural crop in China from the remote beginnings of settlement in that part of the world, down to our own time. Among the weapons to come out of the magical kit bag of the ancient Chinese conjurers are cannabis stalks into which snake-like figures were carved. According to one of the legends of the ancient Aryans of India, the god Shiva brought the marijuana plant down from the Himalayas and for their use of enjoyment. Well, okay, I'm not going to read. This is the hemp era. I'm not going to go into that. The marijuana and hashish era. New issues for the old hemp plant. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII issued a papal... You know what? I'm not even going to get into this. Look, I'm just saying. This book, I'm not going to read all this to you because I don't feel like... And this is going into the racism. It's just going into... just worldwide, different parts in history, okay? And cannabis is used medicinally. So this says, okay, marijuana, the first 12,000 years. That's what it's called. So it's 12,000 years. 12,000. That's a lot of years of history and documentation of the medicinal uses of cannabis and hashish and hemp, okay? Then, got this other book, Cannabis is Medicine, right? How medical cannabis and CBD are healing everything from anxiety to chronic pain. And this book is also written by a medical doctor, Bonnie Goldstein, MD, one of the country's most respected and experienced medical cannabis physicians, established her practice in LA in 2008. She has successfully treated thousands of adult and pediatric patients with serious and chronic medical conditions, and she speaks frequently about cannabis medicine at conferences and to patient groups around the world. Dr. Goldstein is the owner and medical director of Canada Centers, Wellness and Education, blah, 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 okay? So this is another very good book, right? So I'm just saying, there's a lot of science. This is not like hocus pocus. So now, Russia, being the country that they are of smart people or something, is realizing maybe we should research this too. But before, they didn't want to hear about the medicinal. You couldn't talk about the medicinal properties of cannabis or you would be in trouble. Okay, let me keep going. So let's talk about the cannabis laws in Russia. Can you possess and use cannabis in Russia? Russia's government takes a tough stance on possession or use of cannabis. Both are illegal in accordance with Article 228 of the country's criminal code and are punishable with a fine and or prison sentence. Since 2012, the penalties can be deferred if the offender is found to have a drug problem. Okay, so since 2012, the penalties can be deferred if the offender is found to have a drug problem. Possession of up to 6 grams is regarded as an administrative offense. Let me read that again. Possession of up to 6 grams is regarded as an administrative offense. Anything above 7 grams is a criminal offense. However, there are reports of people being arrested for cannabis possession only to have the authorities exaggerate the amount of cannabis they were caught with. Now, she had 0.7 grams, and it wasn't even of flour, it was of oil. 0.7, and you see, 7 grams is a criminal offense. So how is she getting 9 years for 0.7 grams? Tell me how that's not wrongfully convicted. Okay. Now let me keep going on. Now it says, for large-scale possession, the following punishments may be given. A fine of up to 40,000 rubles. Now, that's the other thing. Not only was Brittney Griner given 9 years, she was fined 1,000,000 rubles. 1,000,000 rubles, I think they said, was like $17,000 or something, US dollars or something like that. But she was fined 1,000,000 rubles. Now, this says, a large-scale possession, the following punishments may be given, okay? A fine of up to 40,000 rubles, the equivalent amount of 3 months of the offender's wages or salary, compulsory works for up to 480 hours, corrective labor for up to 2 years, restriction or deprivation of liberty for up to 3 years. Okay? For especially large-scale possession, especially large-scale, okay, these penalties increase to 500,000 rubles, a fine of 500,000 rubles. Now, again, she was fined 1,000,000, and she had 0.7 grams, okay? So, especially large-scale possession, the penalties are increased of a fine of up to 500,000 rubles, the equivalent amount of 3 years of the offender's wages and salary, and or restriction of deprivation of liberty for 3 to 10 years. Okay? If the individual willingly hands the cannabis over to the authorities and actively contributes to the uncovering and suppression of drugs-related activities, he may avoid being given any penalties. In real terms, possessing or using cannabis in Russia is a risky practice. For offenders, the acquittal rate is 0.1%, with most being sentenced to 3 years in prison. Close to half of the 102,217 guilty verdicts in 2017 were for those convicted of cannabis or other soft drug-related offenses. Despite this, there are large numbers of drug users in the country. It's estimated that they number between 7.3 and 8.5 million in total. Okay, so we got that. So I just wanted to just say, because people aren't dealing with facts at all. It's funny to me how people talk so much, people don't research it. People do not know how to look up facts. And you know who taught me how to thoroughly look up facts before I open my mouth, before I form an opinion, and then open my mouth to express that to the world? Is my dad. My cannabis smoking dad. Okay? Who has very good critical thinking skills. He's the one that taught me that. Do some damn research, because people are talking out their ass like, well, she knew the laws, and Trump is over here talking about, you know, like she's a drug addict. And I heard that they gave her a drug test, and it was negative. So now I didn't look that up to see if that was actually a fact. Let me see, because I remember being told that, or hearing that in the news or something. And if that is true, that would mean that she really doesn't consume it that much, because cannabis stays in your system for a while because it loves fats. Okay. Hold on. So again, the law in Russia says 7 grams is a criminal offense. 6 grams, okay, 6 grams is an administrative offense and is punishable by 15 days in prison or a fine. And Brittney had 0.7 grams and was given 9 years. Now, again, with people, when people complain again about the U.S., you know, it's like, at least our legal system, like, people can complain about our legal system, but we don't have a 99% conviction rate. There are some, what is it, rights that you are given as a defendant, not in Russia. Also, the thing people have to keep in mind, she has translators, right? How do we really know that the translators were translating stuff right for her? How do we, like, imagine being in a country you don't understand the language. You're in Russia, of all places. And you don't understand the language, but you're going through court and you have someone that's translating for you and telling you what they said and what they're asking you. You're responding. What if you're being told the wrong thing? What if you're admitting to something you don't even know because you don't understand the translating? Okay? So there's that. And she had, she did have, you know, even though laws are different in different countries, what's legal in one country is not another, but I'm just saying, for those who have this narrative that she was just a drug addict or something, and that she wasn't using it medicinally, understand that that is a real thing, using it medicinally, and a lot of athletes do, and it's way better than what sports medicine doctors are doing. Sports medicine doctors drug athletes up and harm them, okay? So, hold on a minute. Oh, here we go. Let me make sure I get through all my points. Hold on. I believe it's a political statement with Russia and China launching a new currency. It can be kind of seen as a part of a taunt towards a war with the U.S. It may tie into Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Yes, I heard somebody say that. They talked about her visit. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Exactly. It's not simple. So people can just keep acting like she was just a dumb, irresponsible girl who decided to take drugs with her and she's a drug addict. That narrative is not a fact. And I will not allow it in my presence. We're gonna have some real conversations. It's far more complex than that. And the fact that she even, see, I have a soft spot for female athletes. So I told you I am a strength and conditioning coach. I have a degree in sports science. My real desire and passion was to work with high-level female athletes, like women such as herself, right? I didn't become a trainer to work with regular people, even though most of my clients now are regular people, and I love helping people. But my real passion was female athletes, not male athletes, and I'm not against working with male athletes, but it's the female athlete. There's a different mindset, okay, first of all, that goes along, and I can get into that in another video. But also, most of the research is done on men. Then they apply it to women as if we're just little versions of men, and we're not. We have different systems. We have different brain. Our brain structures are different. Our hips are different, okay? Our knees are different. We have a uterus. I mean, our center of gravity is different. There's a lot of our hormonal cycles are different. There's a lot of things that are different between men and women, and women haven't been researched like that. The research is done on men. And there is a lot of things with female athletes that's just my passion, right? So, so we also know that Russia is, like, you know, highly homophobic, very anti-gay, and she's a lesbian woman with a wife. That's also an issue, right? And, okay, also, who she comes from, yeah, because I had this list of things I want to talk about, so I don't want to get... So, another thing about her, okay, that I didn't, know, right? Apparently she was not coming out into the court when the national anthem was being sang, during the national anthem, right? And so I'm looking on YouTube and I see all these white people who are throwing so much hate at Brittney Griner because they're like, oh, she hated America. She hated America before, so she wants America to save her, and she didn't like America, and she hated America. And that really triggers me. Because as an Afro-Indigenous, copper-complected woman from Turtle Island, okay, which is what you now know as the United States of America, all right, I have never sang a national anthem, I never will, okay? The national anthem was written in a town that I'm in right now, which is Bladensburg, Maryland, and it was a very racist song that a man who owned slaves wrote this song. And if anybody, again, people need to look at some damn history and read some shit and do some research. The national anthem is not a good song, and I would never sing it. And any black American or indigenous, Native American, Indian, whatever, doesn't want to sing that song, like, the people who are singing it should be the ones who are shamed, okay? Forget about police brutality. Forget about that. Let's just deal with the song. With that song. It's not, no, okay? So, they wouldn't be making Jews sing a song that, like, some Nazi wrote about killing them. They wouldn't make them do that, and nor would they do it. You know, so to look at where Brittney Griner, she's from Texas, okay, and her father was a Vietnam vet, okay, so her father, ex-military, fought in the Vietnam War for this country. Her father was a sheriff in some town in Texas, maybe around Houston or something. He was a sheriff. So she's not, you know what I'm saying, like, don't try to say she's not American and she don't like America, and that's where Brittney Griner comes from, okay? Also, the other thing is that, because of that, there's a lot of white people who are just not sympathetic to her, you know, because they didn't want to try to help her for that reason. So you have that coming. Now, I wanted to say that, you know, I'm listening to people speaking who are experts, you know, on Russia and Putin. And they're saying, because I remember when this first happened, when it first came out, a lot of people were like, it was like maybe a month after it happened. And a lot of people were like, how come they didn't make a bigger buzz about it? And I remember hearing WNBA players saying that their coaches had told them not to make a big deal out of it because they felt like if they did, it would make it harder for her to get her home. Okay? Because Putin would then know, oh, these Americans really want her back. She's really valuable. You know? So that's the reason why much wasn't being said at first. And then, you know, people started speaking more and more as time went on. And I remember having a conversation with somebody I know who was trying to tell me Biden wasn't doing enough. And I'm like, how do you know what Biden's doing? How do any of us know what Biden's doing? First of all, Biden has to run a whole country. There's a lot of things happening, things that we know about, things we don't know about. And then there's her too. So she's one of many issues. But how do you know that he's not doing anything? Just because he's not coming and making a public announcement about every single step he's making doesn't mean he's not doing anything. And I listened to these experts say that the fact that Putin knows that we're all talking about it, we're all watching it, and that, first of all, he doesn't care about public opinion. These other countries don't care. A lot of these other countries, these leaders do not care what the world thinks. Or you can't pressure them. In a country where you can't even speak your opinion about any goddamn thing and you can go to jail, they definitely don't care about countries of the world trying to pressure them into being politically correct. They don't. Which is another good thing I love about America as to why I would not move to another country. And I have several reasons. But another one is we don't have to look at the same dictator in office for 50 years. Okay? Like, one of my really good friends was from Cameroon. I was just with her the other day, and she was like, she's only known like one president in her whole life. At least in the, you know, Americans, some people complain about voting. Oh, I vote doesn't count, and all this whatever. But we have choices over here. We have a complex government system over here. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than a lot of places with these very strict dictators, and you can't speak anything, you can't say anything. No, I'll choose Americans' cons over anybody else. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to quit. Because I'm saying that, I don't want to move to another country because, first of all, my ancestry and bloodline is on this soil, so this is my country, right? I'm not an African. I'm not a European. I'm not Asian. I'm an American, right? But because I'm critical about certain things that's happened to black people, copper-complected people, American Indian people, Native American people, whatever, I'm still going to comment on those things because that's our bloodline. That's from this land, and it was colonized and hijacked. So when people talk about Americans, it's like we're not all the same. We're in the same boat. We have the same history or understanding of how things are. Okay? But yeah, so people need to understand that too, is that they feel like, you know, the bigger deal that gets made out of it by Biden or the American media, that it could make it harder to get her back. And when we heard this thing that Biden was willing to exchange this merchant to death, like Russia wanted this merchant of death in order to get Brittney Griner. But what I heard just now on the news, and I was listening to these experts, they said that Russia didn't come to the U.S. with that offer. Joe Biden presented that offer to them. And that Russia was barely taking it seriously. Like, Russia is like barely responding, barely taking it seriously, coming back with a counter offer, but it doesn't seem serious. So that's what Joe Biden is dealing with. Now imagine dealing with this, and, you know, whenever someone's going through something, it's urgent to them. But it's like standing in line because there's so many other things going on. But I'm just saying, a lot of Americans have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. And the strategy that has to be done to try to get her back. Which I really hope. Because there's no way, I don't care, you're in another country, other laws. She did not deserve 9 years for 0.7 grams. She did not. So that's wrongfully detained. You have to look at the specifics of every single situation. Because if you were just coming into this video and you didn't hear, when I went through the laws in Russia, it's 6 grams. 6 grams gets you 15 days in detention. 7 grams is considered a criminal offense. And even that didn't get you that amount of time. But she had 0.7, 9 years. Okay? That's not just, oh, that's just how the law is over there. No, it's not. Something much greater going on. Okay? And the fact that, oh yeah, this is the reason why I was talking about my passion for female athletes. Female athletes don't get the notoriety that the men get. They don't get the money that the men get. Okay? Now, it could depend on the sport. You know, like maybe in tennis, that's like the highest paid female athletes. But female basketball players, Brittney Griner has won a couple of gold medals for the United States. She has and she's highly decorated. Won up championships and stuff like that, highly decorated. But the women still have to go overseas to play to supplement their income. You know, the men don't have to do that. And of course, I know that the men bring in the big bucks and, you know, all of that. But the female game, anybody who has watched the female game will acknowledge the fact that the female game is a lot more strategic and skilled than the men. Okay? I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's an NBA coach. He played basketball. I mean, not coach, sorry, NBA scout. He played basketball in college on a high level and is doing a lot of basketball camps and stuff like that. And he told me the women's game is so much more strategic than the men. And I know that when I watch the men, the little bit that I watch the NBA, which is rarely, my twin brother, he's a sports journalist, so he always got sports on, but I'm not, I love to train athletes, and I love to play sports. I'm not into watching, but ever since I was a kid, if I did watch, I like to watch women, right? So, and when I was a kid, there was no WNBA, all right? So, what I was saying, darn it, I keep losing my train of thought of the connection I was trying to make with the female athletes. That they don't get the notoriety. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I lost it. So, yeah, I think I made all the points I want to make. And then a lot of you might have seen that Iman Shumpert, Tiana Taylor's husband, he got caught with 6.5 ounces of weed in his book bag yesterday in Texas. Now, I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, Texas is a very anti-weed state, but 6.5 ounces is not legal. It's not legal in any state to have that much on you. New York, you can have 2 ounces. I think that's like the most in any state, but not 6.5. And so I don't know why he would try to fly with 6.5 ounces in his book bag. That just sounds crazy. But again, he's a basketball player. So, like, I'm just going along with my thing where I'm telling you that basketball players, football players, track athletes consume cannabis, okay? So for those of you who are really naive about that and you think athletes don't do that and, oh my God, but you're an athlete. Michael Phelps. Remember Michael Phelps? Okay? So, I'm just saying. In the future, I will do, in the near future, I'm going to do videos about cannabis and its applications in sports, okay? Because there are many, and it can replace a lot of harmful drugs. There was a short time period where I wanted to go into sports medicine, and then when I couldn't do it, because I myself was drugged up by sports medicine doctors and given NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which cause severe damage in people and can cause all kinds of ulcers and prevent your body from healing. And I remember being a college athlete, track athlete, and being given NSAIDs. And one day I was like killed over in pain. My stomach hurt so bad I couldn't even stand up straight. And I go to the sports medicine doctor. He looks at my file and he tells me, you know what? You have been on these non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for too long. And that can cause ulcers. And he just said it as a matter of factly. That always stayed in my mind. Always stayed in my mind. Like ulcers. Because I was in so much pain. I'm thinking, I got a hole in my stomach? I'm in college, okay? So, over the years, I've learned a lot. Even the role nutrition plays, okay? I'm going to do a video another day about omega-3 fats, the animal-based omega-3 fats, and how the role they play with preventing inflammation and NSAIDs. I always tell my clients, not fish oil, okay? Fish oil is garbage. I'm going to do a video about that too. But cod liver oil, okay? You want the cod liver oil is better than fish oil because cod liver oil has vitamin A and D in it. You're getting it from a good source. Fish oil is a doesn't have vitamin A and D is refined. It's a refined waste product of the commercial food industry, highly destructive. Like, I would never take fish oil. But the EPA and DHA fats, which are found in fatty fish and canola oil, stuff like that, like, that is a very potent anti-inflammatory. Also very important for your brain. And very much connected to endocannabinoids. And necessary for the processing of endocannabinoids. So, I've always known that and have had, always been searching for ways to bring the body back into balance without taking these pharmaceuticals. This is going to stop my body from healing, or my client's body from healing. Instead, I want to promote healing, okay? Promote healing so that we're not dependent on these things and we actually get back to strong again, okay? Because you're only as strong as your weakest link. But when you're taking these medications that's preventing your body from healing, okay, and it's addictive and causing all these other problems, I don't believe in trying to solve one problem by causing another, okay? So I have more videos on this coming up. In my Patreon page, I'm going to go more into depth about certain things because there's some things I don't feel comfortable talking about on YouTube because they're always trying to delete my stuff. And also, not just that, it's like the family I come from of organizers and freedom fighters. I feel like they've been watching me my entire life. But also, getting into the health sciences, nutrition, and really, telling the truth about things can be hard because and this is an interesting thing. It's like there's a lot of corruption in science. There's a lot of, and I have videos where I talk about that. And for a long time, I walked away from the university, and I just kept reading research. I never stopped reading research since I graduated college and since I went into my first grad program at Columbia University in applied physiology and nutrition, where I realized that I wanted to have my own practice because I didn't want to be bound to what these organizations are telling me I can tell people, which is a lot of BS, because I really wanted to help people. And so I've been on that path my entire life. And now I am going back to school into a scientific program so I can educate. And I'm very much into the science, right? I'm a science nerd. I want to understand how things work and how to apply it, the science and the applications. But in this program, it's interesting because there's a focus in it that is, very much focused on legislation and federal laws and national laws, and that's important. And it's in Baltimore, which is close to DC, where you have all the people who are trying to change laws are at. And I've seen, I haven't seen any other programs that really focus on it like that. But sometimes I think, I kind of stay away from politics. I grew up with parents who were very knowledgeable about that and very involved in it, especially my mom. But and I respect people who fight to change laws. My mother is one of those people, and it takes years of organizing and fighting to get a law change. And then the next year, depending on what politicians come in office, it could get overturned, which is why voting matters and all that stuff matters, right? But that was never my calling, is to do work on the legislation. It's more the education, okay? The education, the science education of why this is good for us in healing, just like I do with food. If you follow my work and you hear me talk about nutrition and food, I'm sure a lot of things you hear me say is not what you typically hear. It's not what you're going to see in the news. It's not what you're going to see when you Google. It's not what you're going to see. I mean, you might find some of it when you Google, if you Google the right things, but you just generically Google stuff about nutrition, you're not going to see that. You will see a lot of books, okay? There are a lot of scientists and, doctors who do realize the nutritional propaganda. They're far and few between, but they're there. But I don't know. I'm just going to, I just feel like I'm getting tired now of talking to this camera. Hold on a second. It's making me lose my train of thought. Basically, being those of you who follow me know that, what am I trying to say? I'm into traditional ways, traditional foods, traditional healing methods to keep our bodies, at its optimal level. Starts with food and what you're doing, how you're moving your body, what you're doing with it, but also healing herbs that work synergistically together, cannabis being one of them, but there are many healing herbs all over the world that people have been using. And I really believe in getting things from nature as much as possible. And, you know, people criticize the U.S. a lot, but we have some of the best cannabis and cannabis products and access and laws in the world. Now, there are other countries like Mexico. It's funny, too, that the country north and south of us are both very cannabis friendly. We have Canada, which I've never been to, and which, you know, medicinal, they have good quality cannabis. It's medicinal and recreational. And then you have Mexico, which I have been to, where Mexico, I think it was legally, I mean, it was just recently made legal recreationally, but it was already legal medicinally. So Mexico and Canada, you know, are becoming cannabis friendly. Jamaica now it's been decriminalized. Colombia. When I first went to Colombia, I went to Colombia because I was interested in studying the black dances of Colombia. I'm also a dancer. I don't know if I said that too. I was very much interested in studying the black dances of Colombia, but then when I went there, I was, you know, pleasantly surprised at the fact that Colombia is like supposed to be one of the world's leaders in cannabis, medicinal cannabis and stuff in the future. I don't know if they can surpass the U.S. because we have a lot going on here, but there's a lot of that in Colombia. Hold on. So, and the thing is, a lot of the world, not everybody, but a lot of the world follows what the U.S. does. So it would be great to see that happen in more places. Other countries that have legalized recreational use of cannabis is Georgia, Malta, South Africa, Thailand, and Uruguay. Okay, so those are places I want to go to because, you know, first of all, when it comes to traveling, I've always said, like, I don't have an interest to go to Dubai, but I don't have an interest to go to Saudi Arabia. I don't have an interest in going to a lot of those Muslim. Like, I don't want to go to any country where if I'm walking around just being myself, I'm half naked and that's illegal and I could get thrown in jail because I'm half naked or because I'm a woman and I'm speaking about something or, you know, or even really because, you know, of cannabis. Like, there's alcohol everywhere. You can get alcohol everywhere. I just want to blend every day. You know what I'm saying? And it sucks to travel and you can't, you know, like, there's certain things that's important to you that you can't get, right? So that's one of the things about traveling that sucks. And one of the reasons why I don't want to go to every single country in the world. Like, some people are like, oh, I'll go to any country in every country. I don't want to go to any and every country. Some countries aren't for me. Okay. Oh yeah, so hold on. Okay, so let me read this and then I'm gonna end this. This is these are, I think, 20 of the world's most weed-friendly countries. And again, you know, anyhow, I'm not gonna get into that. But okay, weed-friendly countries in South America is Argentina. Argentina is where medical marijuana is free. Medical marijuana is free in Argentina. Argentina became the first country in the world to provide medical marijuana to patients for free. Who knew? Okay, you know what? This video is ending in 1 minute and 24 seconds, so I'm going to have to continue this in another video. Well, actually, I'm going to go through it real quick before the video ends, because if it goes over that hour, I won't be able to save it. Then we have Chile. Chile is the highest per capita use of cannabis in Latin America. Colombia. Well, in Chile, it's private at-home consumption is allowed. Even more surprising, Chile has the highest per capita use of cannabis in Latin America. We have Colombia, softies and the green stuff. Uruguay, which is the first country to legalize medical and recreational cannabis nationwide. Ecuador, decriminalized with discretion. I'm going to do a video where I go more into depth about this, okay? Brazil. Oh, no, it says Brazil. No. It says weed is widely... Okay, let me end this. To be continued on these different countries, okay? And I'll post that on my page, Makeda Valletta Travels. Follow me on all my pages. Thank you for listening. If you learned something, please share it. And have a good day. Bye, people.